I'm going to show you how to make some good drops. So these are a few drops I have. We're just going to go over them. And right before the drops, there's a build-up that makes sense. And right after it, there's like a breakdown that makes sense. For me, mid-tempo, electro, cyberpunk, the kind of stuff that I'm into doing, 16 bars is a good length for drop. I usually don't go less than that, and sometimes I go a little more, but 16 bars is the good, it's like a good length to do, and I feel like that gives the listener and the dancer plenty of stuff to do between that time. So if we listen to this first one, and they're color coded because like this section is kind of its own thing, then this section is its own thing, and then this section is its own thing, and this section is its own thing. Subtle differences. And you'll see in this one it's a little bit different. But we'll go through this one right now. So everything changed. This section right here, basically this part right here, like that's kind of like what is looping the whole time through, essentially. So we have this 1 bar loop. Do 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 do. And that loops again, but at the very end of it, to kind of because you know you don't want to looping it again is fine because it's dance music, but just to make it extra special, we do like for the last quarter note of that, you add in some fills. Fills is something I use quite a lot. Fills is like what makes this stuff interesting. For me, for dancey, heavy music, I like things to be as repetitive as they possibly can, while also not being repetitive. It's merging those two things. A paradox, I know. Again, it's looping. If we play that and then play this, and we play this, they're the exact same thing. But because they're sandwiched between these two things, that fill right at the last quarter note, and this is a different fill. Take the time to have different fills that go through. If you normally write a drop in, I don't know, I'm just throwing out numbers, a week, but you want to have the fills be different, so it takes you 2 weeks instead of a week, it's worth it for your track. So you have these fills at the end, like once your main line loops, and then you have another one. And then after that whole thing goes down, we get into this section where it's the same pattern, but I've added a layer to it. So it's essentially changing the sound of the lead patch, the synth sound. And this is going to be a loop right here. What do you think is going to happen right here? And notice, similar, but different. And then right here, because this is a special bar, the last 4 bars at the end of your first 8 bars, which I would call 8 bars like a phrase. This is like the period or like the end of your paragraph, essentially. So it's like a much bigger fill. So that's like what this is. Like the patch changes, it's like a da 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 da, and then there's some like extra drum sounds, which sets us up into the second half of the drop. So this is gonna, I didn't even talk about the drums that we added. Right here, not only did we change the patch by adding a layer, but we also added some hi-hats. So there's like another layer of progression. Right here, some effects are gonna come in, some like vocal atmospheric sounds, and the patch note sequence is different. And the patch is different. Listen to it. I've taken the layer off and went back to this sound, but now the filter is fully opened. And there's all this white noise in the background. And you guessed it, right here, more fills. But listen to this fill. It's different than this one. And it's different than this one. But it's still similar. It's a dun 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 dun, but it's a different sound. And then we have some vocals coming in. And then of course, because it's the end of the phrase, and all of that drop was built from just this. I just listened to that a bunch of times and then realized, okay, I'm gonna copy it so I can get a 4-bar loop. And then started adding in fills. I was like, okay, I'm gonna add a fill right here. Okay, now I'm gonna add a fill right here. And then I finally got this. And then copied that whole thing again, was like, okay, let me change the patch a little bit. Let me layer some other synth with it so it sounds different, and add some hi-hats. And let's switch out these fills for something different. That's what I did. And then more work had to come into thinking like, okay, I need to like, how do I change it up here? We're gonna change up the pattern a bit, the notation. So that is how I did that drop, and I think that's something that you guys could easily do. Now, I know it's not easy, but it's not rocket science. Just try coming up with like a 1-bar loop, and then duplicate it, and then at the end of that second duplicated 1-bar loop, add in a space at the final quarter note, this right here, and do like a fill, and then just keep going on and see what you can do. So this drop is a little different. It's more of a call and response, and let me just play it for you. Okay, so let's go over it. So the main motif of this drop, if we just look at the first bar, is the fill is happening at the front instead of the end. So that was like the loop. And the bass line is like way simpler. It's being carried by its heaviness. It's like, you know, that classic 1788L long boy sustained electro sound. It's just like. So we have this fill, and then I duplicate it again and change the fill again. And eventually I came up with this. And I thought that was pretty cool, but because this is such a simple, it's like way simpler than the EDM bass, the da da dun 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 dun. I thought that it would get boring pretty quickly. So I said, okay, this is a good opportunity to do call and response. And so the second half is more of this plucky sound, but it's still going with like the fill motif of the first quarter note. If you listen right here, just like, and each one is different. So that would take some time. Like I said, if it takes 2 weeks instead of 1 week, just freaking do it. You'll get a better job. Did I say job? I meant drop. And then because this is the end of like, let's call it a half phrase, I added another fill right here because it's gonna loop back in and go back to, see how this is blue? This is blue. It's gonna go back here. But I believe I added some hi-hats and all these sounds are different. Ooh, it's not different. I repeat it. But that's okay because so that's the new energy that we're bringing once we repeat it. So it's literally just repeated, the exact same thing, but it's really cool how amazing. All you gotta do is just add in like a hi-hat, and it just feels like so much has changed, especially that offbeat one. That's a little different. It's like I tricked you playing games, because it starts out the same, but then we get that little and instead of doing a 1/4 note fill, we start doing a 2/4 note fill. Remember, this one is the special one because it's the end of the phrase, so that's why the fill is a little bit longer. Starting to see the pattern here? I'm trying to be as clear as I can. It's not super clear, but I think it's clear enough that most of you guys are going to understand this. And then, what do we do here? I'm going to be adding some new drum cymbals to keep it going, but also the patch is getting more intense. I believe I FM'd the bass to give it more of a distorted sound. And then we're also adding some more like melodic atmospheric sounds too. So it's like this section is totally more energized, but we're still doing the call and response. phrase. So what I would invite you guys to try to do, start off with just worry about one bar. And get hyped on that one bar. Make it really good. Get your drums good. You got your bass good. Make it sick. And then repeat it. And if you have a fill, change the fill. And now you have 2 bars. And so on and so on. Alright, the last example I'm going to show you. This is a track as the recording of this video has not been released. So I guess this is like a first time exclusive that you're hearing this track. I guess so. Here we go. Are you starting to notice a theme with how I do my drops? It's like if you heard one Social Kid drop, you've heard them all. So let's go into this. Once again, it all started with this. And this became the theme for the whole drop. Now, because I was so excited by the sound of this drop and like the heaviness of the bass, I decided that repeating it might be kind of special. So this part right here are basically the same, except for right here, I add in a fill that's different. Just so that it's slightly different. And then right here, the start sound. It's like the same idea, doom gong, but it's different sounds, just slightly different. And then change it up here again, because this is like the end of a half phrase. And we're about to go into something newish. It's becoming like a big super fill. And then what are we gonna do here? What do you think we're gonna do here? Hi-hats, of course. But this is basically the same as this, with just hi-hats. And then this beginning part is a little bit different because it's a doom. And then this whole section is just fills because we're about to go into this new section. And then this whole thing changes by changing the pattern. And the patch is a little bit different. But the main theme pulling it together is like right before it starts. Just kind of like how in the universe there was a thing at the start. This thing has a thing at the start. It's patterns. And they're easy to create by just starting with one thing, slowly expanding, slowly expanding, slowly expanding, duplicate, slowly expanding, and you're done with your drop. Guys, it doesn't have to be that hard. I think that a lot of times newer producers don't know what to do. They'll just get stuck in loop mode. But make space in your drops for fills and then start adding fills, duplicate them, loop them, put new fills in, and it freshens up your drop. then duplicate that whole thing again, add some hi-hats, freshens up your drop again. Then duplicate that again, and then maybe change the patch. You're fresh. That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to share this tip. I hope this helps somebody out. If not, then I do apologize. I'll try again some other time. If it did help, I'm really glad it did. And I would appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a good one. Peace.